what we'll do, I think just to, while we're waiting for it to get warmed up here, we'll just do a little bit of a review. You just want to open your Bibles up to the 14th chapter. And just take a little bit of a review. We took about, I guess first of all, what is the setting? What time period we're studying about? 14th chapter.
John's seeing these visions of the future and sees these angels, right?
Right. So with that, it's setting at the end time. After the events of the development of the Holy Roman Empire and the events to do with Napoleon in the 1800s and leading up through the developments with Israel, the resettlement of the land, and the end time after Christ is returned to the earth. And what happens after that. That's really what he's talking about here. And the three angels. The first angel was what?
Mid-heaven proclamation.
Mid-heaven proclamation. They've given everybody an opportunity. Now this comes after the Christ is returned.
Right.
This is after the judgment.
After the judgment. Right. Yeah. So those, and after kind of the first phase of Armageddon too. After the initial overthrow of the Gogian host, power of the north. And then this mid-heaven proclamation goes out, and of course about that same time other things appear to be on the go as well. The construction of the new temple in Jerusalem, and also the regathering of the people. The work of Elijah begins about that time. So then there's another angel. It would be the second angel. So what was that one about? All these things are going in sequence.
Judgment on the beast.
Judgment on the beast. Babylon is fallen. It's fallen, that great city. In verse 8. So that's an angel proclaiming that. And Rome is destroyed by the earthquake, but the system, of course, survives, and that is still pending further developments as to the judgments on the system itself. And so the third angel. The third angel is in verse 9. The third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, "If any man worship the beast in his image and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they have no rest day or night, who worship the beast in his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. And here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus." So that's all those verses from verse 9 through 12 are kind of where we've just been, and it has to do with the third angel period of time.
That's judgment on the worshippers of the beast.
Right.
Yeah. You said it was a time of rejoicing.
It is a time of rejoicing for, depends on what side you're on. The savor of death unto death, or of life unto life.
The cleaning up of the mess.
Right.
That's what I got out of it.
Yeah. No, but you're right. I mean, it just depends on what you're talking about. I guess. But yes, there definitely is rejoicing.
It means to an end, yeah.
Still got a temperature light going on there.
Maybe you have to unplug it or something and reset it.
Takes a long time for some of that.
It takes about 20 minutes, I think, for
Yeah.
Read, listen.
Read,
follow
listen,
the book.
whatever, yeah. Okay, well, do you have books? Everybody have books? Okay, well, then we're okay. So what we're doing, we're going on then to we did have the section about here's the patience of the saints, here are they that keep the commandments of God and faith of Jesus. And what we're going to study about now is in verse 13. Just go on that page 58 on the brown book, page 423 on the black, and if you have the red book, it's 45. And I don't know if there's probably some other editions out there that I'm not keeping track of here, but
How do you number that, the way that
well,
starts? Where do you put your numbers?
the first is just a quotation, so that's
No.
not really a
Starting
paragraph.
with principle, like and then
The quotes are part of the first paragraph.
Okay, so second paragraph begins, this is the heathen?
Right. This is the heathen fiction, second paragraph. Third paragraph is the Anglo-American harlot. So, yeah.
No, it's just kind of hard to hear.
Right. So, from verse 13, from the Authorized Version, King James Version, it says, I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, Write, Blessed are the dead which die in the Lord from henceforth. Yea, said the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors, and their works do follow them. Now, in the first part of the heading of that paragraph, he's got his own translation there. And that reads, And I heard a voice from the heavens saying to me, Write, Blessed the dead dying in the Lord from this time. Yea, saith the Spirit, in order that they may take rest from their labors, and their works he goeth in aid of with them. So, a little bit of a difference there, and it doesn't really kind of make sense the way he's got it there, but it is grammatically correct, and we got to figure out, I guess, what it is that's being said. I'm just going to go to the. Maybe I'll do that when I get the projector. We'll go to the expositor. So what we'll do in the first part here, and I've got this paragraph headed. The translation/interpretation difficulties with this phrase, their works do follow them. And there is translational difficulties with that. He says the principal emendation of this verse is, when he's talking about is his translation compared with the Authorized Version. That's the emendation. So the principal emendation of this verse is the rendering of the word akaluthi, which in the common version is incorrectly translated in the plural, as if their works plural, were the nominative to the verb. The Bible Union Version and all its authorities have fallen into the same grammatical error. In their attempted exposition of the words, their works follow with them, they add, as an attendant train. So speedy is their recognition and reward. Then they call Milton's poetry to their aid, saying, Thy works and alms and all thy good endeavours stayed not behind, nor in the grave were trod. Or as it originally stood in the manuscripts, straight followed thee the path that saints have trod, but as faith pointed with her golden rod, followed thee up to joy and bliss forever. So, in summary there, I just put that the thoughts of traditional religionists dictate that this verse be understood in the sense of the works of the believer testifying to their admittance to heavenly bliss at death. So, there are places in scriptures where the works it speaks of the works in terms of doing good deeds and things like that. But what he's saying is this isn't one of them. The works are understood in a little different sense. Any comments, questions on it? There's a little bit of grammatical language there about plurals and nominatives and verbs and different things. And I think what you'll find there as we go along is that in his translation, there works he goeth, which is singular. And there's a verb there, goeth, that's and they've kind of missed that out altogether. They've left that sense out. Gordon?
Just going to the verse, and I know it's a little bit different part than what you're discussing, but it says, blessed are the dead which die in the Lord from henceforth. If this is after the judgment, the first judgment, is that referring to the faithful that are mortals at the time through the kingdom, or how is that meant?
I think he goes into that a little bit later here.
Look, it's not referring to us sort of thing if we, because we would have passed through the first judgment.
Yeah, he puts it from now on or from this time forward.
Yeah.
From henceforth, from this time forward. He says it is the time indicated by Jesus in Matthew 16:27, saying, the Son of Man shall come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and then he shall reward every man according to his works. So it's from henceforth or from this time forward, from the time of the reward forward.
This is from the time of after the first judgment, those that die during 1,000 years.
I think what he's saying is that the works that they're referring to are from that time. The henceforth refers to that, not to the dying part, but to the works part.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So how would you, even his...
I'll just put a little bit here. Blessed are the dead which die in the Lord. From henceforth, yea, saith the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors. It depends where you put the comma. And as there was no punctuation or anything in the original, the comma can be put anywhere. So the henceforth is not referring back to the time of the dying of the saints, which of course has happened in previous times previous to that. But it's the activity that happens he's talking about. The works part is forward of that.
Could you use the word therefore instead of henceforth?
I suppose, yeah.
Perhaps.
Yeah. That would be definitely give some sense to it.
So in other words, the rest from the labors is after the resurrection.
Yeah.
See, because the churches teach that the good works that you do is going to get you salvation.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, you're rewarded according to, in other words, it's all about me.
Yeah, it's what you do.
Yeah. And as Brother Thomas has been very emphatic in his writings that it's not about us, it's about the manifestation and glorification of God.
So that's why it's singular. It's concentrating on God's operation, not us.
Yeah, it's singular for a reason, because it's the He is referring to the Spirit as manifested in Yahweh Sebaoth, the Yahweh of armies.
So at this point, this third angel, isn't this after the complete overthrow of Babylon/Rome
And its followers, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
this going back a little bit, but I just wondered if anybody else had seen Andy Walton's comments on the situation in Germany and Euro and that. He's just put out a new one. It actually applies more properly, I think, to the second angel, where Babylon is fallen.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But he's saying that Europe, like Germany, is basically the one that's calling the shots, and therefore he figures they'll dominate the rest, and will actually. It's based on a quotation as power of the beast, I think, or maybe not. Maybe I'm remembering wrong, but he's saying they're going to actually legislate laws for the rest of Europe, so they'll completely dominate.
Right.
And therefore because their money's involved, and they're the only ones with money, kind of thing. And we talked earlier about the Catholic system being so rich, and whether they would be involved in a bailout. And of course, there's not mention of that in the news, because they would never reveal that, I don't think, if they were. But if Germany sinks their money, their resources, and it still doesn't work, then where do they go? That's kind of a discussion we were having, I guess.
Yeah. There's some doubt about the survival of the euro too, which is could resolve some things with Britain being in the picture.
It's Russia. Russia isn't with the euro, are they?
No, but Britain is, and they really shouldn't be. And so if they reorganize that, it might change the picture.
I think they showed their colors a little bit. They refused to go any further.
Mm-hmm.
Like they will not submit to.
I don't think they can afford to.
Maybe not.
Britain doesn't have the common currency. I'm sure they probably accept euros, but they still have the British pound, right? But they're part of the EU.
Yeah. They trade in euro as well as a pound.
Yeah.
You can buy with the euro, though, can't you, there?
Mm-hmm. You can use the euro there.
Yeah.
It's accepted.
You can use it anywhere in the world, I bet.
So anyway, these first few paragraphs are short, but they just kind of deal with the problems with the with the translation. The first 5 or 6 paragraphs, and then he goes into expounding on this. So let's go back and analyze this thing and see what it's really saying. The next paragraph is really short, and it's just talking about again the incorrect idea conveyed that the works follow and testify for heavenly entrance. He says, this is the heathen fiction, poetically expressed, of immortal souls going up at corporal death to joy and bliss. That is, when they actually die and pass off the scene, they go up to joy and bliss in heaven. And their works and alms and good endeavor as an attendant train of witnesses be speaking for them a glorious welcome in the sky. So it's just kind of the works are their credit card and what they need to enter. So the foregoing verses are an expression of the kind of religious fiction that exists on this subject. Get paid or Gregor?
Well, it's reset.
That made me think of that card you were given when we were down in the States. There was a gentleman walked up to Eddie and he'd written 2 books. It was about Masons, wasn't it?
Yeah, which was good. He's got some good points in there.
I mean, he really knew what he was
Constantine and everything.
But Eddie was sitting in the car studying. I was shocked. Sounds normal. But anyway, he walked up to Ed and he had this card. I was going to let you see it. And gave it to Ed. And it said, get out of hell free. It was like you were playing a game, but it was you know, it was quite splashy.
Right.
But it really made you flip it over and think, what is this about? You know, it was just, we've got the card still. But he just saw Eddie sitting there reading, and he said, oh, I guess he talked to this guy. But he was totally deaf, but he could lip read really well.
I was trying to turn it off.
And he had a good talk to him. He said, all the parking lot. I said, what is get out of hell street cars? It's like that get out of jail.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just, it really was.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. You know, the concepts that are out there about these things.
Mm-hmm.
Just, well, that's warming up. I also heard a so-called expert, financial expert, talking who had predicted the demonstrations that we're having now, like the Wall Street thing. And he had predicted that in 1995. So they had him on the radio, and he was saying that, guess who they put in charge of the financial restructuring of Europe? Quite a few of the Goldman Sachs people who were the ones that caused the US to tank. You know, so the tank's going to fail.
I didn't get that.
The Goldman Sachs employees and the executives.
So-called experts. They were the ones that miscalculated so bad.
That's what caused the 2008 crash in the U.S.
And so they're driving the European.
Well, maybe they're good ones. They've got some experience behind them.
Well, he says, he predicts that the U.S. and Europe will crash, which
It will.
is just his opinion. But and it's not based on religious, it's based on pure numbers.
Economics, yeah. Well, it has to be based on economics. I mean, because there has to be some reason for those who are not looking for God's purpose. There has to be some reason for them to see how this happens. So
he's a so-called expert.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Which is interesting.
Can you see if they're okay? I think I'll do here just what we like to do when we're starting a new section, just go down through the paragraphs. There's 15 of them. A lot of them are very short, but they tell a story. It's interesting when you start putting headings to these things, you know, how you can almost get the sense of the section without even reading the paragraphs. Paragraph 1 is, as we said, the translation, interpretation difficulties with that phrase, their works do follow them. And the one we just read, the incorrect idea conveyed that the works follow and testify for heavenly entrance. Paragraph 3 talks about a convenient change in wording employed in the Anglican burial sermons. Paragraph 4 talks about paraphrasing for sense rather than grammatic equivalence. There's two different types of translations. We took that when we did the presentation last year on you know, how to choose a version. There's different types, and he's talking about that here, where they paraphrase this rather than using the grammatic equivalence. And then paragraph 5 is getting back to and examining the original text. Is where in the first 4 he talks about what the problems are, and he says, let's go back and check it out. Paragraph 6, he says, the voice from heaven is heard at the time of the end, when saints are resting from their labors. Paragraph 7, the speaker is none other than the Son of Man, you know, the same one that said, come ye blessed of my Father. And paragraph 8 is talking to the voice was addressed to John. So they're speaking to John. So he's going through these and just very, very analytical and very simply. Paragraph 9, the voice told John to write. Then we read what he wrote. Paragraph 10, the time of blessing is when Yahweh's purpose is accomplished, not before. Paragraph 11, the message is confirmed by the Spirit. Paragraph 12, the operation of resurrection and glorification is the operation of the Spirit power. So,
Where does 11 start then?
11 starts at the yes, said the Spirit.
Okay, because...
There's some verses there that are attached to the previous paragraph.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so 11 starts at...
Yes, said the Spirit.
Yes,
Yeah.
said the Spirit. Yeah.
Oops. Okay, and paragraph 12, the operation of resurrection and glorification is the operation of this spirit power. And paragraph 13, the works of the saints is that accomplished by the marks of the rainbow angel all through this process. That was their works. That's what they did. And paragraph 14, the works of conquest are aided by the spirit power of Yahweh Sabaoth. Paragraph 15, the Spirit goes with the saints to assist or aid them in the work of conquest. That's kind of the sense that comes out of that.
And that's why it's He and
He, and it's the Spirit as manifested in Yahweh of armies. So He is really the Yahweh of armies through the Spirit power that's driving it. Okay. And maybe we'll just go into the screen up here. We'll go into the expositor on that. I heard a voice from heaven saying, he said, this is introductory to the vision about to be revealed. And it says, right, blessed are the dead which die in the Lord. The blessing is to those who are faithful unto death, and they are blessed at the time of the dead. So again, context, when? At the time of death. From henceforth, this edition shows that the blessing is not in death, but from henceforth, or in the kingdom. Notice the marginal reading, from henceforth, saith the Spirit. See, there's the sense. It's not the guide from henceforth. It's from henceforth, says the Spirit. And that is even in the margin there. Yea, that they may, etc. It is said by grammarians that the construction of the Greek favors joining henceforth with die, as in the authorized version and not as in the margin. This would suggest that in view of the persecution and frustrations to which believers would be subjected, to die in the Lord would be a greater benefit than to live in persecution and tribulation. However, the true measure of that blessedness will not be received until henceforth, until the events of this chapter are revealed in the earth. So that's kind of how you connect the two. The idea that, grammatically correct, it should be associated with what was previous. But because it doesn't really, the blessing doesn't really happen until what happens after that, after the return. It has to be connected with that too. Yea, saith the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors. The future age will reveal the true sabbatical rest, but it will not be the rest of idleness, but of joyous cooperation with the Lord, as is suggested by the word used in Matthew 11:29. Just take a look at that. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and holy, and ye shall find rest unto your souls. So it's rest in action.
It's an interesting subject because it tends to underscore that when the saints are called to go with Christ as part of the march of the rainbow angel, it's not going to be an easy time. For one thing, they are going out in conquest of the nations. And we have spent our whole lives conditioning ourselves against vengeance, against all those things, and to be going out and in any way having anything to do with the destruction of fellow human beings is not going to be easy.
No, well said. It'll be a major adjustment for it.
I don't know if you noticed in the readings of Joel last night, or yesterday, that's talking about the saints. They'll run upon the wall, climb upon the houses, enter It was like a
Yeah.
Which shall fall upon the sword shall not be wounded, but be
Yeah,
mortals.
right.
So the capability is there.
Yeah.
Do it without. They shall not thrust another. Neither shall one thrust another. So that almost answers the question if you don't have to directly do
No.
violence. So that you just
More, I've always kind of regarded it more of a management role.
in the fact that they cannot be stopped by conventional guerrilla warfare. They just overwhelm.
But it's, whether it's management or direct involvement, I mean, it's still, it's the concept is still there. You know, the objective, the mission is still going to be a paradigm shift for us.
The thing that brings to mind is, we are in a period of ourselves now, a period of probation and also preparation, so that we are ready to deal with servitude to God in the time of the future. And it really almost presents a conundrum for us even now, because we have to value our fellow humans to the point where we wish to bring the truth to them, to where they can be saved, and yet we have to bear in mind that those who don't aren't acceptive of it are it's a almost to us a conflict of interest in a way. We sort of have to prepare ourselves for placing God's value upon things rather than our own is really what it boils down to.
When you go through the process of conscientious objection to participation in warfare in armies, it brings it to the point. It's not pacifism. It's not what we're about. It's not that we disagree with wars, but it's not the time. And that's a little bit of the difference with a lot of conscientious objectors. Something that Brother Thomas made very clear, he named the movement Christadelphians, and for the purpose of establishing a conscientious objection position. And something he made very clear, it's not pacifism.
And the other thing about that is, I believe, by then there will be great polarization. Those who are unrighteous, let them be unrighteous still. I mean, they've taken a side, and there's no turning back. So it won't be quite. They won't be just like people saying, "I don't know what to do." It's like, no, I'm going to fight this army.
We can't ignore the work of the first angel, which is very important in reaching. A wonderful time, really. It's just that at some point it has to come to the head.
We must remember that an immortal doesn't think the same as we do. See, we think from mortal record, whereas the mind of the spirit is changed from the mind of the body.
That's where Christ was such a valuable person, because he saw it from both sides.
You still won't forget, though, what your situation was as a mortal. I mean, those thoughts will still be there, I'm sure.
But your value,
See the big picture.
your value will change.
Just trying to get my head back around what I was saying here, but that's an important thing to remember, is that, and I guess that's maybe the importance more than ever of our preaching effort now, because we're coming to a time shortly in the future here where people are going to be faced with a choice. And it's going to be a very serious and vital choice. Either you accept Christ as Christ, or he is the Antichrist, and you're going to fight it. And all we can do in many cases is provide an alternative train of thought where people can say, you know what, I better think this through carefully and not just go with the bandwagon here, because just maybe I'll be found on the wrong side of this whole thing.
Well, it'll be a time of great polarity, because just as vigorous as the movement will be to preach Christ and preach Him as one to be accepted as the future ruler, there will be just as vigorous a movement to oppose him as the Antichrist. So it'll be very, very much a time of polarity.
Can you think about the advantage that we can provide to an individual to have, a sort of a heads up about that at this point in time?
Yeah. It's a condition.
I guess ever since we've looked at that mid-heaven proclamation, the work of the saints and bringing about the gospel message to the masses of those in the earth that remain, it's really been a question in my mind of trying to figure out, I guess, our place as mortals here today in our preparation for that future work, and trying to figure out what type. Maybe I focus too much on the way it's delivered as opposed to just delivering the message, but how that message is to be delivered here today for our preparation for that future work. Because ideally, in every role that we're going to have in the kingdom age, we should be preparing for that effort now, so that it's a fluid thing and not a mind-blowing change. Of course, we'll never be perfect at everything, but our goal is to try and rewire ourselves so that we can do those things in that day without much change. And I guess I struggle with knowing what type of preaching effort we should do. And like I say, I'm probably focusing too much on the type versus just simply doing it. Because you look at different examples, like you look at, Christ as an example, and a lot of his preaching wasn't in your face. It wasn't beating the drum. It was talking in parables, trying to find those that could listen and understand and were seeking. He wasn't wagging the finger. And then you look at another example, say like Jonah, who went out to the world, to Nineveh, probably one of the centers at the time of the world, basically, and told them of their error and their sin. And he obviously connected with them because they changed their way, and that would have been a very difficult task for you to go into a city, go into New York today and tell it, no, New York, you got to change your way or else you're going to get destroyed. Imagine given that burden, that job. It's just, I just struggle knowing, I guess, what that means for me today and what I need to do, and it's hard to know.
Yeah, how to be the most effective.
Well, I think you judge what you do to who you're speaking to. Some people you speak encouraging to them, and others you got to confront them.
When you're speaking to the masses, you're speaking to a lot of different kinds of people at the same time. So you need to structure it a little bit more generally.
Yeah, no question. In the future, this polarity and this or that, which will be a lot more evident in that day, will be an advantage to the preaching effort.
Right. Yeah, right now,
there's no need
that's the greatest enemy to anything right now.
Exactly.
And that was just going through my mind here. People will turn around and tell you, well, none of this is important. We can tell them, it may not seem important to you now, but the day is coming when you'll be forced to make a choice. It won't be you can be this or that or nothing. You're this or that in the eyes of those who are leading the charge, and you better know where you're going.
I find I tell people until they don't want to listen, and I say, well, when it happens, Don't say I didn't tell you.
Yeah.
You know, you know this is going to happen.
Because all of a sudden, whether they like it or not, at some point in the development of all of this, it's going to become the most important question they ever ran into, whether they like it to be or not.
Yes, we've got a few minutes. I should just finish off this paragraph that we're talks about their works do follow. Brother Thomas renders, yea, said the Spirit, in order that they may rest from their labors and their works, he goeth in aid with them. This literal rendition of the Greek may appear clumsy, but it does represent the original. It suggests that during the period of rest, the Spirit aids the saints by manifestation of power in work. The rest is the sabbatical rest from the works of the flesh. It is not the rest of idleness, but of joyous cooperation with Yahweh. The Spirit will be poured out upon the redeemed and will assist in establishing Christ's reign on earth. Thus the praise and their works, that is, the labor they perform in the coming age, he, the Spirit, goeth in aid of, or for assist with them. But the redeemed perform in the age when they shall be at rest from the distractions of the flesh or from the tribulations experienced in previous times, will be done through the Spirit, which they will then possess in its fullness. So there, that, going back a little bit to what we were just talking about, I mean, how you do it, how to be the most effective. I think we will be answered to a great degree by the assistance that the saints will receive. Not only having the mind of the Spirit, but having the Spirit to assist as well. There's more than...
You can't even think.
No. There's a certain amount of... Christ had it when he was on earth the first time, in limited measure, but we'll have it along with the saints in great measure, dealing with the nations in which to come.
It's great comfort to have those that believe the same.
This word rest here, I'm getting a sense here this is totally different context than what you see, say, in the Psalms, talking about the Lord's rest, the place of his dwelling, basically Jerusalem. That's totally different, right?
Yeah, he's talking about like a sabbatical rest, the rest of the Sabbath.
Right. Seventh day rest.
Yeah, the rest from the works of the flesh.
I think he nails it right there about 2 or 3 lines up to the bottom. What the redeemed perform in the age when they shall be at rest from the distractions of the flesh. The real rest that we're looking for is the absence of the flesh to influence our thoughts and emotions. That is what creates for us the work, the labor, the frustration that we go through every day trying to serve God. It's the distractions of the flesh.
Because the mind and the Spirit will be dominating in that day, and that's an entirely different thing than what we're struggling with right now.
My mind kind of goes back to Christ. He was, in a sense, he was presenting that choice to the nation of Israel, of Judah, when he was on the earth, and he knew that basically the Spirit was going to designate that city for destruction, and he would have to be on board with that, and yet he stood up there and he wept, "Oh Jerusalem, Jerusalem," and I think that sort of describes maybe the mindset of the saints when they have to stand there and be involved one way or another in the destruction of the nations. Oh, if you had only listened.
Yeah, there's also the aspect that whatever God does, and we can see it in this too, whatever he does is absolutely fair. There's no treating someone bad who hasn't had a chance or who hasn't made a choice. It would be absolutely fair and be transparently so it's kind of like our judicial system today tries to be fair, of course, because this man runs it. It's not, but it's almost why the onus is to the vendor. They almost give it more chance than the ones the vendor gains. I think that's the reason for that, trying to be fair.
Okay,